All right, we are now recording and officially started. The first word for attendance will be fraud, Fraud. Just so as a reminder, uh, you just have to email me the list of the words when we are done to claim your extra credit. Speaking of which, let me also show you the other stuff. Actually, you know what? On the last meeting, I showed you all the other things you need to do to get the extra credit. So this time I won't waste your time doing that. But, if you go to WVSU online and see the course and pull up week 1 virtual, well, I guess in this case, week 2 virtual meetings, you can see all the directions here, right? So everything you need to do to claim your extra credit is right there. So please do that to get your points. Before we jump into things, I want to know, do you have any specific questions? All right, no specific questions. That's good. Nice and easy. So really quickly, let's jump into things. I wanted to let you know, and you probably already know, you probably already read the announcements, but I've had some personal things going on, like identity theft. And I also had some professional things going on because I've just been added to a new grant. So anyway, all that to say, I am a little bit behind on grading and emails for that matter. So I've only looked at a handful of discussions, and I have not looked at any of the labs or quizzes yet. But really quickly, let me just tell you what I saw so far with Module 1. As predicted, I'm seeing the mistakes that I thought I was going to see. So people who didn't watch that last video and they didn't read the prompt carefully and they didn't read that first announcement. Actually, I'll go ahead and pull that up. Please, if you're watching this and you haven't read the first announcement, do this. I know it's a long one, but read this announcement, read the links, because people are making mistakes that I knew they were going to make. And this is why I've told you in this first announcement not to make those mistakes. So make sure you read that. Then let's really quickly look at this.
If you're sharing your
Module 1
screen,
discussion.
we can't see it.
Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
If you're sharing your screen, we can't see it.
Oh, good. Thank you. Luckily, I hadn't really got into too much yet. So, yes, let me share my screen. There we go. Thank you for letting me know. There we go. Anyway, yeah, so make sure you read the first discussion. My first announcement. But here we go. Module 1 discussion. So here's the biggest thing. Well, first of all, the biggest things, the things I already knew I knew were going to happen, which is you have to use sources, right? And if you don't know what I mean by that, that's why I include a link. You click the link and it explains how to properly use sources. I will not grade anything unless you properly use sources. So there has to be a link to your source. You have to make it obvious how you used your source, right? You can see in this example, I put the word according to my source. In this example, I used a hyperlink in the post, right? So you have to make it obvious how you used your source. You can't just put a link at the bottom of your paper. And that's for a lot of reasons. If you want to know why, we can meet separately and I can explain it to you, because there's always a method to my madness. I'm not doing this just to be a pain in the rear. So yeah, make sure you use sources. And that includes, as you can see right here, for the original post and the replies, right? You always have to use a source, always. And you have to do it properly. So again, click that link if you need help. But before I move on from that concept, because again, this is really important because you'll get 0 credit. That's a big mistake, right? So do you guys have questions about how to properly use a source before I move forward? Okay. Also, on that note, if you received 0 credit on any of your posts, that's because you didn't properly use a source. So whether it be for that reason or any other reason, any other reason that you lost points, all you need to do is reply to, I know this is behind us now, but I'll still allow you to make corrections. So if you didn't get full credit, just reply to your own post and make the corrections, right? Basically rewrite your post, reply to it, copy it, paste it, and edit it to make sure it is the way it needs to be. So are there any questions about that?
I'm just curious because you said you can still make corrections, but I got 20 out of 25 and I'm not really sure why. Do you post the feedback somewhere that I'm missing?
That's a good point too. So this is another thing, and you may have good grief, I can't talk today. You may have already read this, so this isn't necessarily me saying this to you, but this is a reminder for anybody listening or watching. If you read that first announcement, the first announcement I posted, You have to be careful with the grading or the discussions because you might think, oh, you didn't get full credit, but you have to go look at each individual post. Does that make sense? Maybe I'll show you. So if you just look at your grade book, you might see your total scores, but you need to see each one of your individual posts, because it'll show you if it has been graded. You'll see like right here, there'll be some numbers, right? Sum of ratings 15 and 1. So this is an example of what it looks like after I've graded something. If I haven't graded it yet, it'll look like this: sum of ratings, and then it's blank. So you need to go to each one of your individual posts to see if I have graded it yet. Because like I said earlier, I am actually really behind because of personal and professional things. So it's a good chance you did not get full credit only because I haven't graded all your posts yet.
I see. Thank you very much.
No problem. It's a great question. And that being said, for anyone else wondering why they didn't get full credit, first of all, like I just said, make sure you go check each one because I still have a lot of grading to do. And second, because I'm behind on grading, I'm leaving feedback. So for example, a lot of students so far, I've already noticed. Let me show you the mistake. Sorry, I'm going to try to go through this quickly because your time is valuable. Week 1 discussion. So one of the big mistakes I've already seen for the few that I've already graded is it says right here, whether it's the original post or the response, you have to base it off of an ethical point of view, right? This isn't really about Cole. Cole is just the excuse, if you want to call it that I'm using to talk about the ethical points of view. So you need to make sure you say, hey, this is based on consequence-based ethics. This is the definition of consequence-based ethics, and this is how it relates to what I wrote, right? So a lot of people I've seen are missing points for this. So going back to my original point that I was trying to make, if you didn't get full credit for a post and I didn't leave feedback, that means you've made a mistake that someone else has already made, and I left them feedback. So there's 2 things you can do. One is go through all the discussion posts and read what your classmates have done, and read my replies. And if it's chronological, you can see here that these all I've replied to, right? So you can see, if you want to see what my feedback is, if you start here and then keep going, you can see the feedback that I've left for people. So again, if you didn't get full credit and I didn't explain why, that's one way you can figure it out, because you've made a mistake that someone else has already made and already left them feedback. Or you can meet me online like we're doing now, but we'll do it one-on-one. And as always, you'll get a 5% boost to your grade if you meet me online, so we can actually give you feedback on that particular assignment. So just let me know. And again, if you didn't get full credit and you figured out and you know what's wrong with your post, just hit reply and do more posts and make corrections to your posts. Does that make sense, everybody? Everybody good on that? All right. I'll assume that's a yes. Oh, good. I think we have another person. Cool. Yeah. So speaking of which, all right, one last time before I move on and be done with talking about the last week's discussion. If you got 0 credit on anything, it's because you didn't use a source. So whether you use whether it's your original post or your response, you have to use a source, and your source has to include a working link. And again, if you have any questions on how to properly use a source, click that link and read that information. Anyway, are there any questions about the discussion before I move forward? Okay, so like I said, I'm behind on grading. I haven't looked at the labs yet. I actually, off the top of my head, I don't think I've graded a single lab, but I can go ahead and tell you now, based on how many years I've been doing this, if there's any mistakes for this lab last week, I'll go ahead and show you what they were. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while. So the biggest mistakes are usually that they messed up the averages. And usually when they mess up the averages, it's because they also used this, they included this digit, which they shouldn't, because that's the temperature, right? They should only be averaging those digits right there. So that's one big mistake I see. Another big mistake is for some reason people just completely skip over this and don't do a graph. So make sure you do a graph. And here's the biggest mistake I see is you need to include a picture of your screen to prove that you finished the lab. And I would go over that now, but I already did that on last week's meeting. So if you're questioning what I mean by that, go watch last week's meeting. So are there any questions about this lab? Oh yeah, sorry, really quickly, another thing, and people don't lose a lot of points for this, but make sure you save it as a PDF before you upload it. You'll lose a point for that. And make sure you obviously do it before the due date. And those are the usual mistakes I see from the lab, even though I haven't graded any for you guys yet. So are there any questions about the Module 1 lab? All right. So the next word for attendance, if you will, to help claim that extra credit points will be graphing. And if we're done with Module 1 lab, then we can move forward. I'll go ahead and tell you I haven't graded things, so I haven't looked at the quizzes, and the quizzes are pretty much self-explanatory. Basically, just one last reminder, you can take the quizzes as many times as you want, and they're untimed. So just keep taking it until you get your 20 points. So that's it for Module 1 and I'm about to jump into Module 2 and give you a little bit of heads up for Module 2. But are there any questions about anything regarding the grading for Module 1? And I know one of you just came in late, so I understand you might be thinking, hey, I don't want to ask a question because he's already answered it, but it's okay. If you have a question, let me know. All right, nice and easy. So then let's look really quickly at what's expected of you for Module 2. Obviously you're going to want to read these chapters. Here we go, Module 2 discussion. So let's look at this very quickly. As the human population approaches carrying capacity, and you can read about that in page 108 of your textbook, we essentially have two solutions. We can either reduce human population growth. Notice I'm not saying reduce human population. I'm not talking about killing people or even making the number of humans lower than it already is. We're talking about growth, right? So just as an example, and I'm just throwing this, think of it as a bank account. Instead of saying we're not taking money out of your bank account, we're talking about not putting as much money into your bank account every year. So you're still growing it. You're just not growing it as much. So anyway, that's option one, is to reduce human population growth. The other option would be to increase carrying capacity. So when you do this discussion, you need to think about one of those two things, right? Should we do this? Should we reduce human population growth, or should we increase carrying capacity? And then once you've decided which one you want to write about, then come up with a way that we can reduce human population growth or increase carrying capacity. So make sure you do that. That's usually not the problem people make. Here's a problem. Here's a mistake people make, as you need after that to only post one possible solution. Excuse me. After posting your one possible solution, you need to add just one advantage and one disadvantage. And the reason I'm strict about that is because your classmates need to also reply to another advantage and another disadvantage. So therefore, the more you write, the fewer options they have, right? So only write one advantage and one disadvantage. And I want to make it really clear. Oh, look, you can read that too. I want to make it really clear here. Your advantage shouldn't be the goal, right? So for example, if you have an idea for how we can reduce human population growth, and then you're listing your advantage shouldn't be, oh, the one advantage of this is it'll help reduce population growth. I'm like, well, that's the purpose, right? The purpose is to help reduce human population growth. So instead of giving me the purpose, come up with some other advantage, right? Like, what's a side advantage to your idea? Are any questions about that so far? Okay. And again, for your replies, you're going to need to list one advantage and one disadvantage. And here's another thing. I want to make this clear. I'll just show it down here. Make sure you guys read these. I think these are good rubrics. I made them so they're nice and simple and to the point. You can see exactly point by point, what's expected of you. So make sure, other than the things I've already told you, what's the other stuff that I usually see that people mess up? This right here. You need to define carrying capacity, and you need to define population growth and relate those definitions to what you wrote. So even if your idea was about decreasing population growth, you still need to define carrying capacity and work that into your idea, and vice versa. Even if your idea was about increasing carrying capacity, you still also need to define population growth and somehow relate it to your discussion. Are there any questions about that? Also, sorry, I should have thought of this. Assuming you haven't read the textbook yet, which I wouldn't blame you, it's only Tuesday. Carrying capacity is basically the number of people, in the context of this discussion, it's the number of people that the Earth can handle, is basically what that is. Yeah, so that's it for the discussion. And then again, once again, I can't say this enough. People keep messing this up. I'm going to be getting emails for it all semester, and I'm going to tell people the same thing. You have to properly include sources, right? You need at least one non-textbook source. There needs to be a working link to it, and you need to make it obvious in your post or your reply how you used it. And again, if you have questions about it, just click that link and it'll show you how to properly use the source. And then I guess the last thing I want to point out, or the last two things to remind you, technically, and I haven't changed this in writing yet, just in case I want to fall back to the way it is officially. So officially, it says you're supposed to have 2 responses. But again, unofficially, I'm telling you, I'm going to, instead of giving you 5 points per reply, I plan on giving you 10 posts, or excuse me, 10 points. So technically, or what I'm telling you unofficially is that you're okay to just do 1 reply instead of 2, to save some time for you and to save some time for me. And then the last thing I want to point out is, as always, I love feedback. So you could like add a discussion topic, right? And then write the word extra credit and then just give me feedback. And again, the more useful your feedback is, the more points you might get. You can read all about that there. But yeah, if you have other ideas like how I can improve the current discussion topic or even come up with a brand new discussion topic, please let me know. I love feedback. So are there any questions about what's expected for this week's discussion? All right, you guys are pretty easy. In that case, we'll move on to the next one, the lab. So this is a big one because I noticed there was a mistake. Some of your classmates are really on top of it, and they've already started trying to do this lab, and they've already emailed me because they had problems. So what they're looking at, they have an older version, because what happened was, let me show you here. Yes, you're going to use this website to answer all these questions. So these questions are basically just provide me proof that you've read this website. That's all it is. So your answers need to come from that website. But anyway, getting back to my previous point, the people who already started it, there was a link that wasn't working. So for them, this link doesn't work, but I have updated it. So if you're watching this video and your link isn't working, well, you can just open back up here again, come back to the master copy, because the master copy has been updated with the actual link. Or you can just shoot me an email and say, hey, can you please send me the link? And I'll take care of that. So are there any questions about the whole link situation or how you should be answering these questions? All right. And really quickly, I want to point this out. This is a common mistake that's made in this lab. What is natural selection, right? So that website is going to give you the definition of natural selection. And basically, I just wanted you to summarize that in your own words. So don't copy it and paste it. Just read it and then just kind of regurgitate it in words, in the way you understood it. And again, we've got these notes here to remind you of that. Other common mistakes right here. Eventually on this website, you're going to play a game where you are acting like you are a bird. You can see here, and trying to eat a bunch of moths, right? So you're going to do that. And please take note of this. You need to get at least 40 moths in each simulation. So by the end of the simulation, it'll tell you how many moths you've eaten. I'm not going to waste your time going through that. But yeah, you're going to keep doing that. And then at the end of it, it'll tell you how many you have. And if you didn't get the full 40 or a minimum of 40 moths, then you just need to do it again, right? So keep doing it until you get up to 40. And you can see right here up at the top left, it says I've eaten 18. And again, I'm not going to waste your time going through this. But again, keep doing that until you hit 40, at least 40. And once your timer's up, then you're done. And here's another thing people mess up a lot. I also, once again, need screenshots, right? So take a picture of your screen to prove that you went through both simulations. And hopefully by the time I'm done talking, this simulation will be over so I can show you a picture of what I'm talking about. So yes, again, make sure you get at least 40 for each simulation, and make sure you include those 2 pictures of your screen to prove that you actually did this simulation, which is almost done. As you can see, it's in red. So yeah, let's wait out these 3 seconds and I can show you what it looks like. There we go. Simulation complete. Right. So I want to see a picture that shows me these graphs right here. And again, you're going to do 2 simulations. So make sure you show me a screenshot for both of those. Any questions about that? All right. So once again, not only do the screenshots provide proof that you did it, but also I'm going to use that to make sure that these numbers are correct, right? So I want to make sure you're putting the correct data in here from the simulation you just did. Let's move forward to this too. So this question is commonly missed. This is kind of like that question I showed you earlier where you need to just summarize natural selection in your own words. And now here, you're just going to do it again, except this time you're going to be basing it off of the peppered moths. And that's pretty simple. So make sure you do that. What's some other common mistakes? What's a question people miss? No, I'm sorry. I pointed at the wrong question. This question is asking what would happen if there were no predators in the forest? Would the colors of the moths change over time? Defend your answer. And I'll go ahead and tell you now, based on strictly the information that you receive in this lab and that simulation, there's just one simple answer. However, the reason I say defend your answer is because technically, like if you know a little bit more about natural selection that was presented in this lab, then there are possible different answers for this. And that's why you have to defend your answer. So make sure you say yes or no. The colors will or will not change without a predator in the forest, and then explain why. And then again, like I said earlier, make sure when you're done, you save it as a PDF before you download it to your own device, and then before you upload it to WVSU Online. And I think that's it for lab 2. Oh yeah, sorry. One last thing. Make sure you do these too. This is easy to miss, or I try to make it not easy to miss because it says right here in big bold letters, you will get 0 credit for this lab if you don't do the pre-lab first. So make sure you watch this short video. It's only 13 minutes long, and then answer those questions while you're watching the video. So any questions about the lab? Once again, you guys are nice and easy. Let's take another look here. Back to module 2. Next word for attendance is going to be quiz. I'm not going to pull up the quiz because, again, it's pretty straightforward. I'll just once again remind you, you can take it as many times as you want. So keep going until you get the full 20 points. I will point this out. The exam, that is due on Sunday. And like I've said in my announcement that I posted today, the questions are worded very, very strangely because there's an app that people can use to cheat on online exams. So I figured out a way to kind of screw that app up. So basically what I'm saying is prepare. How do I put it? Yeah, be prepared to be a little bit confused. And again, if you read the study guide that I posted for you guys, it'll give you at least one example of what I'm talking about. But if you want more time, you only have 50 minutes to answer 50 questions. So if you want more time, just let me know. We can do exactly what we're doing right now, which is meet online. And what I would have you do is turn on your camera, turn on your microphone, and share your screen, like the way I've shared my screen. And that way, if I can ensure that you're not using a book or the internet or any other thing, then you're taking a closed book exam, then I don't care how long it takes you to take the exam. Additionally, if you do have questions when you're looking at the test, you're like, what in the world is he trying to ask here? Then just let me know. But really quickly, I'll just give you this one example. So rather than a question being straightforward and saying something like, which of the following is the first law of thermodynamics? It'll say something a little bit more confusing. And the confusing parts will be the stuff in black, and you can just completely ignore it. So go ahead if you want and you can get your mind ready to just read the stuff in red, right? So in this example, Jude Law is an actor. Speaking of law, what is the first law of thermodynamics, right? So again, you could have just read the red part and you would have been fine. So make sure, again, let me know if you want to meet online to take the exam so you have more time. And then finally, I know things go wrong. And in a different course just last week, somebody really messed up. You have 50 minutes to take the exam once you start it. So plan accordingly. One person in a different section took this while they were at work, and then someone showed up and they had to give somebody a tour. But I can't let them retake the exam. At that point, they've seen the whole exam, and plus it's their work. Like I don't have any proof that actually happened. So make sure you can devote 50 minutes to take the exam. Also, I don't know, make sure your camera's ready, your phone's ready, because if anything does go wrong, you need as much documentation as possible to prove it, right? Maybe your computer caught on fire. Maybe your Wi-Fi went out, right? I don't know, whatever may have happened. Make sure you're ready to document it to let me know. I guess that's it. So are there any questions about what's expected of you for Module 2 or how grading went for Module 1? All right. I guess my last word for attendance will be based on one of you guys. So Tang, T-A-N-G, that last name will be the last word for attendance. And that's it. Make sure you send me those words along with the other stuff that I have listed if you want the extra credit. And if you need help with anything, remember to let me know. I know this is an online class, but you don't have to do it alone. I will literally sit with you and go through the discussion with you. We can talk about it before you put it in writing. When you're doing the lab, I can go explain every question to you, explain every concept to you. You don't have to do this alone. I'm here for you. And that's it. If you guys don't have anything, I don't either. So I'm going to stop recording now.